Welcome back to another episode of Colony Drop, a Gundam podcast. My name is Brian.
And my name is Isaac. This is your favorite Gundam podcast where we talk about the anime series, the movies, Gunpla, Gundam music, Gundam lore, ideas, anything and everything Gundam. Isn't that right, Brian?
That's right. Anything is fair game. And today's topic, Isaac, is something we've not done before. We're going to talk about a compilation movie that was recently made available on the official Gundam YouTube channel, which for anyone who doesn't know is Gundam Info on YouTube, so you should go subscribe.
Yeah, check it out.
And what is that movie, Isaac?
This is a very special movie that is based on a series near and dear to my heart because it was the first series that introduced me to Gundam. The movie we watched and we'll be talking about today is Mobile Suit Gundam 0083, The Afterglow of Zeon.
I am very curious to see if your love for the source material, the source series, influences your opinion of this compilation movie, Isaac.
I'd say it did to an extent, but before we get to that, did you know that this movie existed, Brian? Did you know that there was a compilation of 0083 that was really condensed the story?
Yeah, that's an understatement for sure.
Yeah.
I did know it existed, but I also didn't. And the reason I say that is because the movie that's on YouTube is, as you said, called The Afterglow of Zeon. I knew it by its original name, The Last Blitz of Zeon. So some of you may have read, if you've been a fan of Gundam for a long time and you're on the internet for years and years reading about things, you may have seen something called The Last Blitz of Zeon, and that's what this is. So
yes,
what's going on here is basically this is a compilation film of the 13-episode OVA series called Mobile Suit Gundam 0083 Stardust Memory. And that OVA series, pay attention here, Isaac, came out from May 1991 through September of 1992. So I think they released like an episode or two every month or every few months.
Okay.
That's pretty standard with OVAs. Now, The Afterglow of Zeon was released in Japanese theaters on August 29th of 1992. So let me repeat those dates. The OVA series came out from May of 91 to September of 92. But the compilation movie was released before the last volume of the OVA series came out.
Was this like insurance for themselves, really? They're like, okay, if people don't get those last two episodes, we'll at least have a movie.
I mean, maybe. Sunrise in general with the Gundam franchise, they love to repackage series into compilation movies and vice versa. We saw the opposite, right, with Unicorn.
Right.
They turned those 7 OVAs into a series, and they're doing the same with Reconquista and G. They're turning that into, I believe, compilation movies or something like that. It's just very slow going.
Good.
So I think that's very strange, right, Isaac? That's just weird.
I mean, maybe we just view things differently, but it would make more sense to finish a series and then say, hey, by the way, we decided to make a compilation movie. We cut off a lot of stuff that maybe the movie editor thought was unnecessary to the story. Here it is. It's just 2 hours, in case you don't want to watch the whole series.
Yeah, could be. I mean, and you're right. It could be like a last blitz of, no pun intended, it could be a last blitz of marketing and media to get people to see the ending.
Right. Or, as we saw in this version, Brian, they could sneak in some unreleased animated scenes and hope that the fans would still buy it or at least see it, because they want to see everything. If they like 0083, the series, why wouldn't they check out the movie?
Totally agree. And I was actually going to ask you about those animated scenes, so I'm glad you brought that up. Sure. We'll get there. And so when it was originally released in theaters, Isaac, that's when it was called Mobile Suit Gundam 0083, The Last Blitz of Zeon.
Ah, interesting.
And apparently it has a third name that it sometimes goes by, which I had not heard this one until I read the wiki. But then that is Mobile Suit Gundam 0083, The Fading Light of Zeon. So I can't tell for sure when Afterglow was first used, the title Afterglow of Zeon. I think it may have been 2006 in Europe. But if anyone knows the definitive answer, I would like to know. I'm most familiar with The Last Blitz of Zeon because, again, that's how I remember it being referred to in like the early to mid 2000s when I would have been reading about this stuff.
Yeah.
So with that said, you got 3 titles, Isaac. Which one do you like best? Personally, I think I like Afterglow best. I think that's a great title.
It's a tie between Afterglow and Last Blitz of Zeon. As far as why there's 3 names, Maybe even why the movie was created. This might be a case of there being too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Maybe this was on the books for a long time. They were like, okay, we'll create this story. We're probably going to do an anime series, but maybe we'll do a movie. And then at some point, maybe the project has said, okay, we'll split in half. We'll release a series, and then at the end, if people want to just see the movie, we'll do the movie too. So, and we can give it 3 names.
They'll just never know. They'll just keep buying it. They'll buy it 3 times.
The real fans will get all 3.
So usually when we watch a show, I like to look up about what other formats the show is in, including compilation movies and mangas. I'm not even going to go into the manga landscape on this show because we're just going to stick to the compilation movie today. Yeah. I'll save the manga diatribe for when we review the series, maybe in like a year or something. Give it a little time to rest. But Isaac, just to preface, I think there are at least 4 different manga adaptations of this story.
Oh God! You mean 4 as in from beginning to end?
Yes.
They switched it up.
Yes.
You know what? That's a lot, but at the same time, that just shows how good 083 was, right? I mean, yeah, it's kind of famous for having a couple of annoying characters, but it has such great anime. Such great animation. I was watching the movie and I was just blown away by how good the animation still is. It still holds up, Brian.
Yep, agree. It does.
The score is great. Whoever did the music, shout out to you. You're probably in Japan. Great job. Because, man, it's just a great series. And I'll say this about the movie, bringing us back to the movie and the inevitable comparison to the series. I wouldn't say it's the boiled down version of 083. I'd say it's 0083, but really focusing almost exclusively on the whole political plot that was happening at the time. So the military campaign and, behind the scenes politics a little bit, but next to nothing about the personal drama between everybody involved. You barely get 3-way romance, right? It's all business. This is 0083 all business.
Yeah, agree. This is the montage version of 083. Yeah.
It's the Spark. Oh God, I'm about to date myself. This is the Spark Notes 0083, the Cliff Notes or whatever. You had to grab the book on the way to your exam.
Yep.
So this tells you just the broad strokes.
You know what struck me, Isaac, immediately? If you look at the runtime of this film, it is 1 hour, 59 minutes, and some change. You know what that means? Sure. That means someone was given a directive. You have to get this under 2 hours. And as soon as they got it to under 2 hours and it made sense, they stopped.
I mean, movies are generally 2 hours, right? So they were probably told, hey, feature length film it. Mm-hmm. So to their credit, they stuffed it as much as they could.
They did. They got 2 hours and no more out of this. So with that, Isaac, let's hear the synopsis. This is the one I saw most frequently, and I think it's probably the best one.
Okay.
So UC 0083, 3 years after the end of the catastrophic 1-year war, peace on Earth and the colonies is shattered by the presence of the Loz'S fleet, a rogue Zeon military group loyal to the ideals of the late dictator Giran Zabi. Loz'S fleet's ace pilot, Anavel Gato, once hailed as the Nightmare of Solomon, infiltrates the Federation's Torrington base in Australia and steals the nuclear-armed Gundam GP-02. Rookie pilot Ko Uraki, with the aid of Anaheim Electronics engineer Nina Purpleton, and the crew of the carrier Albion, pilots the Gundam GP-01 prototype in an attempt to recover the stolen Gundam unit and prevent another war from breaking out.
That really sums it up. Yeah.
Yep.
No argument here. It's 0083. It's just packed down to 2 hours. All right. One of the things I liked in this series starting right off is, I don't know if this was something they cut from the original series, but they showed us the colonies being moved at the beginning. So really major foreshadowing and kind of a Chekhov's gun thing, right? Where they show something that's going to become really important later on.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm glad you brought that up because I did not remember that in the original show.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you don't remember it either, which means it probably was added animation then.
Right. I also didn't remember, maybe they even changed this, that they were headed towards Site 3. I was thinking to myself, what? There's Zeon. I supposedly, in my version that I watched, it said that Zeon has the most industrial capacity left.
Right.
But I don't think that meshes too well with the lore and stuff. But whatever. Anyways, it opens with Nina narrating, and she does jump in a couple more times in the movie to give some narration. So we're to take it that this is sort of the Nina version of events, right?
My overall thought on the compilation is actually that this whole thing basically seems like Nina's hazy memories of the events. And I think that was I feel that way because of this opening narration, which I also had on my list of things that I liked the best. I thought her intro and voiceover about the 1 year war, followed by the colony workers repairing a colony and then seeing the two colonies fly by, on their way to Side 3. I thought that was a perfect way to open it because it gave the viewer an understanding of what you were watching and enough background to get into the movie. And then one of my favorite parts of the movie is very simple, Isaac. But right after that explanation, right after you see the colonies, it goes dark for a little bit, you get some text, and then we go back to space, and the first thing you hear, you don't even know who Loz'S is yet, but Loz'S says, "For 3 long years we have waited." And then, boom, the title screen, Afterglow of Zeon. I thought that was perfect because, again, at this point, you don't know who Loz'S is, but based on what he just said, you know he's about to come at you, and he's about to come at you fast.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool opening. I thought we might get one of the intro musics, the intro songs.
I was hoping, yeah.
Yeah, but then I was like, you know what? They're doing it really straightforward as a movie, so no music like that.
Yeah.
Also, I noticed it was weird. I don't remember in the original series, but when Gato actually goes to GP2, Nina sees him there, but she doesn't say Gato or anything. I don't remember if maybe you do. Did she recognize him in the original series?
Well, I'll be honest. When I first watched the original series, and we've already discussed how dumb I am for this, I did not even pick up that they were ex-lovers.
Okay.
And I think that's what actually contributed to me thinking that, or not even thinking that that was a possibility.
Yeah.
She sees him, but she doesn't really say anything for a while.
Yeah, she's not like, Gato? What are you doing? Get out of there.
Yeah, and she wouldn't call him Gato, right? Wouldn't she be like Annabelle or Annie or whatever she would call him? It would seem odd to me to call your ex by their last name. That seems a little strange. So
maybe that really was like that turned him on. That boiled his goat, Brian. That shot his scooter.
Call me the Nightmare of Solomon.
Call me Gato. It's Spanish for cat. Oh yeah, that really butters my biscuit when you say that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the in-universe explanation was that he was too far and she couldn't see that it was him or something.
I guess, but Gato has like a really unique hairstyle though.
He does, yeah.
But anyways, moving right along, I always thought it was interesting too that Gato said this whole operation will rebirth Zeon. How on God's green earth could that possibly happen? Like, I know Loz'S has been kind of spinning his brain with ideas, but I really don't see how. Do you?
I mean, maybe he thought that it would spark more of an interest from the people at Axis who are remaining somewhat neutral and get them more involved. I'm not sure.
Okay. One of the scenes I really liked was Loz'S throne room and how vain he became in like the 3 years since the war ended.
Yes.
Because that was a legit throne room, wasn't it?
It was, yes. Yes, complete with the bust of Giranzabi.
Oh, yeah. He was like, when we win the war, this new war that we're going to start, I'm going to be the ruler of everything.
He was definitely very effective, as we've discussed in the past. Maybe one of the most effective things that Zeon has done. But yeah, he did have a bit of a complex, just like his idol, perhaps.
Speaking of complex, he didn't give Gato the courtesy to tell him that, like, by the way, Shima's hiding in the room somewhere.
Yes.
She's hiding under the curtains with her little feet sticking out.
Yeah, I noticed that this time, that he was very upset. He must have not realized that she was taking part, which seems odd, right? I feel like all the major players would know each other. So yeah, that was clearly intentional on Loz'S part.
It was good to see Shima again in her poncho. That is so cool. I really like her poncho and her whole little outfit. Her dramatic fan.
Yes, she has to have her fan. And also, what's more dramatic, her poncho and fan, or the fact that she makes some of her male crewmen not wear undershirts and have like really deep V-neck uniforms?
I'm going to say her own outfit, because if she's walking around with like a fan and a poncho, she probably told her troops, you know what, the war's over. Just dress however you want when we're actually doing things.
Because she has the fan, I have to ask this question. Do you think that some of her male crewmen have the deep V-neck uniforms with no undershirts because it's like they're her harem?
Oh, wow. Oh, so she gets...
Or is it because it's really hot on her ship, which is also the reason why she has the fan?
That's true. Oh, maybe like their HVAC system was damaged at one point and they never really fixed it because they never returned to port.
Yeah.
So like everybody's just wearing like one layer. You know, you're allowed to pop your buttons and stuff like that.
And some of the crew were just like, F it, I'm just going to cut it out.
But she knows her she knows her poncho looks really cool, so she refuses not to wear it.
It's got to be sweaty in that thing, right?
Yeah, she's like, you know what? I'm just gonna fan myself so I can look amazing. I thought you were gonna say, oh, you know, she likes her crew to kind of show some skin, and when she gets hot and bothered, she just opens up the fan and brings herself back to her senses.
That, or they're just at her beck and call when she needs them.
Will that be the new anime series? We'll do like a reverse harem starring Shima.
Yeah.
The Shima side story.
Yeah. Female empowerment, man.
Shima and the meat ship.
Yeah, it's the reverse of the guy from Iron Blooded Orphans. What was his name?
Who? Oh, wait, not Biscuit.
No, not Biscuit.
Oh, poor Biscuit. I know who you're talking about. The
Orga's bro.
Yeah, Orga's more successful, wiser guy. One thing I noticed that was kind of gave me a question mark is why did they bring back the whole... It's almost its own subplot because it keeps coming up again in multiple episodes in the series, is the whole carrot thing with Ko. He just doesn't like carrots. I never found that funny in the original series. I never understood why they decided to bring it here. Why, Brian? Why?
So I wrote this down as well. My note was, of all things they chose to make it into this 2 hours, they chose to include that Ko doesn't like carrots. And at first I thought that was a negative, but then I realized that Ko really doesn't have a whole lot of defining features. He's pretty bland as far as Gundam protagonists go. And so I'm pretty sure the director, whoever, I'm sure they were like, you know what? This is a unique personality thing for Ko, and it does, get him into certain scenarios with his friends, so I probably need to include it. Now, they didn't include maybe all the parts of it, but they did include some of it. So I think it was just an attempt to kind of give Ko some personality.
Interesting. Maybe. One thing I read, I'm not sure how accurate this is, the voice actor for him in the Japanese version doesn't like carrots, and apparently he's famous for not liking carrots or something like that. Who knows? So they decided to carry that over for Ko, but that just sounds so bizarre. I have a hard time believing that it's actually true.
I don't know. I could kind of believe that because, I mean, sometimes, especially in animated series, particularly animated films, if you get someone really famous to do a role, you might change some of the lines to maybe better fit their delivery or their style. Certain Pixar movies, they'll change the character's face a little bit to kind of look like the person who voices them, things like that.
Okay.
That's interesting. I hadn't heard that one before, but I buy that.
Speaking of voice actors, Mancha's voice in the English dub of 0083 Stardust Memories is this really annoying voice to fit his character.
Yeah.
But this Mancha came off sounding really reasonable, and which, by the way, listeners, we watched this as a sub. There is no dub to our knowledge. But he had a really reasonable voice. It was way less annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, that could also be attributable to, you don't necessarily know what an annoying Japanese accent sounds like.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Mancha did not sound nearly as annoying in the sub. I mean, he definitely got the most screen time though out of all of the, I'll say, B cast, right, of the Immortal Fourth team.
Yeah.
Maybe Burning, I guess, but we didn't even, correct me if I'm wrong, Isaac, but we didn't even see Burning die in this one.
Nope, but we don't see him at the end either.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, as you said, Brian, we're kind of on a fast forward here, right? We're sprinting through the story.
Quite the sprint.
Something interesting, though, is I think there was a scene where Nina's meeting with Ko and Mancha at the cafeteria. She mentioned that she has the authority to decide who pilots the Gundam. I don't remember that in the original series. That makes like no sense. Why would an engineer from the company that designed it decide who gets to pilot it? Shouldn't it be Captain Synapse?
One would think. I guess it depends on who has custody of the Gundam at the moment. Like, has Anaheim really given it to the Federation, or is it still technically Anaheim's property? I wasn't clear on this the first time I watched the show, and I didn't get any more clarity this time through this movie. But Admiral, was it Cohen? Is he Federation and Anaheim, or just Federation, or both?
I think it's just Federation.
Yeah. Okay. But he's like in charge of the GDP, which is an Anaheim thing.
I guess they needed somebody on the military, involved in it. Clearly, probably told them what they wanted, and then Anaheim went around building it.
That's what I'm saying, though. So if he's in charge of it, but then Nina has control of who pilots the Gundam, he's not really in charge of it then.
I guess not, or at least I don't know. Maybe that's small potatoes for him. Like as far as he's concerned, as long as these prototypes, are proven, who cares who's piloting it? It's kind of beneath him to even know.
Yeah, that's true.
Moving on though with my notes, Shima has a really cool command chair. It's like okay, say what Delaz had a throne, right? But that was built for like one man. Only one man can sit there. Shima's command chair, it looks like she could like lay out, right?
Again, that's what I'm telling you, man. Those men are at her beck and call. I'm just saying.
She had like a white tiger's skin on it, like the fur of a white tiger.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then behind her, she had some painting that we can all assume that she looted, right?
Oh yeah.
She did. I don't think she's a budding artist or a member of the crew painted that, and she liked it so much she said, "You know what, guys, we're putting this on the bridge." like you tell a child when you're gonna put like the macaroni painting on the fridge.
Particularly with her. To what has happened to her in the past, I think looting the painting would probably make sense.
Why not? But Shima's so cool. She's such a good pilot. One of the best scenes I've seen. Maybe it's like a wallpaper appropriate screenshot. It's when Shima is her fleet goes down to their first fight, and she's in a Gelgu, and she like lands on top of the bridge of a Salamis and shoots down into it and explodes. I always thought that was such a cool image.
That was a great scene. Yeah.
God, they're never going to put guns on top of the bridge of a Salamis. No matter how many times that happens. It's like, we can't fix a good design. I don't know. And then there's a scene where Shima's fighting Ko. She switches to using her forearm guns. Was she just toying with him, you think? Or did she like legit run out of ammo?
Could have been both. I do remember what you're talking about. It could have been, that maybe her rifle was overheated or something. That scene was really interesting given that the GP1 took a lot of abuse in that scene. Like, Ko was dead to rights.
Yeah. I mean, if she didn't use the forearm guns, I assumed he would have been dead, right? Because her, whatever rifle she was using had to be way more high-powered.
Yeah, probably. Another interesting part of that scene was that Ko did absolutely terribly against Shima.
Well, hang on. In his defense, this was when he went out into Gundam, but it didn't have the right, it didn't have the right data,
right adjustments.
Right.
Absolutely, because it was sort of tuned for ground. But I contest this. It is his fault. You know why? Because Nina tried to give him the right adjustments to use. She offered him the disc before he got in the Gundam. And he like moved her out of the way, and instead he used his own calculations. Isaac, remember he got his little disc out and he put that in, and he still lost horribly to Shima. So you know what this means? That Ko is bad at math.
Probably. I mean, in his defense, he's a test pilot. He's not an engineer.
Right, but he should know that he's not the guy that should be adjusting the Gundam.
True. And for it, he almost died. He got beat up bad.
He did. This is on my list of negatives about the film, things that I liked the least. And it's just Ko in general, because him and Nina's relationship is already very iffy at best in the full length series. So all the compression, all the pacing issues in this compilation movie just makes the Ko Nina relationship that much worse.
Say what you will about the series overall, but I think you wouldn't find that many fans defending Ko and Nina as characters. And more to the point, they never came back. In any form.
Yeah, that's true.
Right after this scene happens, though, and the little skirmish with the Shima fleet's done, it cuts to Snaps talking to, I think, Cohen, or at least members of the Federation leadership, and they say that they can't send in more ships to search out the shoal zone for Loz'S and Shima and whoever else is out there. Did you take that or assume that meant that at this point the Federation conspirators and the high levels of it, they were already cutting off the Albion at the knees? They didn't want them actually finding Shima or the Loz'S fleet. They gave them like 2 ships, if you remember.
Yeah, I mean, I get that's interesting. The guy's explanation for it was that they're just underestimating Unit 2. So you're saying that you don't really think it was an underestimation, that it was more purposeful than it was underestimation. Maybe some mix of both, but more conspiratorial.
Yeah, because everyone in the Federation that's part of the conspiracy, they don't want Shima damaged or hurt or defeated. They still need her fleet. They're their spies,
Yeah, that's true. taking a step back, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to not commit resources to go look for the stolen nuclear Gundam that can take out your whole fleet. So,
Right.
yeah, something's definitely wrong with that.
After this part, though, the story takes us to Luna, where the Albion gets to land and spend some time. And I forgot how good Luna was at simulating night and day, because it essentially looks like Earth in a lot of scenes, right?
Mm.
There's a scene where Ko wakes up in a bed, and it looks like it's daylight outside, like he's somewhere on Earth.
Yep.
There's a scene where it's nighttime, and it looks like night on Earth.
Yep.
You know, so I'm glad we got to see so many good snippets of Luna in this series and in the original 0083.
Yeah, I agree, because we don't have a lot of Luna stuff in modern animation.
Yeah.
There is some in like Zeta, Double Zeta, I think.
Right.
But, it doesn't look as nice as the 0083 stuff. Have we revisited Luna in anything?
Not really.
Was it in Unicorn at all? I don't remember. Not too much,
No.
right? If it was.
Origin a little bit.
Origin, yeah, with the Cassilia parts.
That's about it recently, though. What was interesting, too, was that I guess space isn't at a premium on Luna, because if you remember, Kelly has like a massive junkyard at his disposal. Like, this junkyard was multiple football fields.
Yeah, it's quite the hangar because it stores his...
Oh, yes. His Valvaro, his secret mobile armor, which we never see fight in this movie. He just works on it.
Yes, this is one of my biggest complaints. I don't understand.
Yeah.
So I do understand why they included it, but it doesn't make sense that they cut it off. And okay, let me take a step back.
No, you're right.
They included this part with Kelly to further Ko's character, because this is when he like really makes up his mind to be a pilot and basically stop being a wuss. And they have to have that for his character because, again, they're not dealing with a whole lot of material on his character. But then they never show him fight it. That's what makes it weird. Like, first of all, the introduction to Kelly is strange because that's already rushed compared to the series. And then he's just abruptly kind of gone, and he helps this dude fix his mobile armor, and then that's it.
He's like, yeah, kid, I'm gonna race it. I'm a racer. I use a mobile armor. I'm gonna go in the Luna Grand Prix. No, that's not a weapon.
like Ko, what is he gonna do with it?
Yeah, I mean, if you had a neighbor and he's a nice guy, and sometimes you help him work on like his Abrams tank, you wouldn't think, oh yeah, there's no harm. You'd think, oh my God, this man has like a tank here in the suburbs. There can be almost nothing good about this.
How did he even get it in there?
Yeah, I was wondering. We never got that backstory, right? I was trying to think, okay, was it assigned to Kelly and he landed it on Luna at the end of the war? Was it at Granada and it just never got deployed into combat because the war ended? Did he find it in the junkyard? I mean, a lot of unanswered questions about the Valvaro, which is arguably one of the most powerful mobile armors we see.
Yeah, I don't know. And then it's just weird because you show it to the audience and then you don't get to see it fight in this film. So, I mean, I get they cut that part out because of time. You know, if I was doing this from scratch, Isaac, I probably would have just cut that whole part.
Yeah, because missing out on that great fight was almost a crime in itself. That's a pretty big part of 0083. You should have gotten rid of the Valvaro fight.
Yeah, I don't know what I would have took out in its place, but
yeah,
you either cut it out or show the whole thing. It was weird showing half of it and then not showing the Valvaro fight, but so it goes.
Adding to the confusion, though, there's a scene where Kelly gets to see a message from Gato, and Gato's like welcoming him, and hey, can't wait for you to join us. This thing's getting started. Kelly's like drinking heavily, and he looks furious. I didn't understand why, though. I think he was more mad because that was the point in the original series where Shima told him, thanks for fixing it. We're going to take it. You're not going to pilot it. You have one arm,
Yeah, well, that could be one of those things where maybe they couldn't change the animation because that's what it was, and they had to just edit around it.
You know what? Gato really should have put his foot down when Shima was involved if he knew she would be the one going to talk to Kelly.
Right.
He probably, I don't know. Well, maybe he thinks Kelly still has two arms or something. I don't know. But if he knew Kelly had one arm, Shima's the last person who should deliver bad news to anybody. She's going to be so sassy about it. No wonder Kelly started drinking.
Her bedside manner is maybe not the best.
No, not. Yeah. Well, I mean, they can't send to Loz'S, but can't they send like one of Loz'S little lieutenants or something? Somebody more professional. But going back to our little harem comments from earlier, the head of Anaheim Electronics, I assume he was the CEO, or at least he's high up in the company.
Oh, yes.
Did he purposefully pick like only female engineers that were young women?
That's a good point.
Because like Nina and like all her friends and colleagues, they're all like women of the same age, if you noticed.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Is he some lecherous executive?
He's got his own harem side story too. It's it's Anaheim Electronics, the hidden files.
Oh, jeez. The Me Too files.
The Me Too files. And at first I was like, I wrote in my notes, oh, all Anaheim Electronics only has young women engineers. And then they have that scene where Nina talks to her family friend that was like, well, I put you on that ship and I should probably do a favor to your parents and transfer you off it. But he ended up being a man. He wasn't one of the young women. So I guess not everybody in engineering, but just their, maybe she was part of like, I don't know, the graduating all-female class of some private university or something.
Yeah, maybe they have some sort of feeder school and there just happens to be a lot of females enrolled or something, or maybe a lot of the men are out fighting the war.
There's no war.
Well, I mean, maybe peace. They were at the time that her class was in session, and then she graduated. And now those men are going back, and I don't know.
Actually, no. The explanation for this is that like Luna University, their STEM program for women is like the best in the Earth sphere. That's the only explanation.
That CEO though, didn't he get killed at the end?
Yeah, he blows his own brains out.
Yeah.
Which, I'll get to that, but I was thinking to myself, what did he get out of this deal with the Shima fleet with the Loz'S? Because to an extent, it went flawless, right? Like, I mean, he did everything he had to do.
So I actually thought that they killed him.
Oh, the conspirators, you think? The Federation?
Didn't want the leak.
Oh, he decided to blow his brains out.
Yeah. That was how I took it. I didn't consider that he killed himself, but I guess that could be too.
That's actually a better explanation. That makes perfect sense then, because they wanted to tie up all the loose ends, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, you got that. This series is also famous, at least for me, for having a scene where Gato has his hair loose, and he looks exactly like Char.
He does.
And it drove me nuts the first time I saw this series, or at least a rewatch, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot Char shows up, and then like he's talking and Karius walks in, and I'm like, all right, that's actually Gato.
What also is confusing about that scene is in that scene his hair is colored blonde.
Yeah, he's in like...
Yeah, whereas all other scenes it's really just like silver or white.
He's in like the Musai's greenhouse or something?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, but anyways, it's at this scene, or at this part of the story, where we're getting closer to the actual attack on Solomon by Gato and the Unit 2 with the nuke. And this Federation Admiral... he really loves tea, because he asked for tea twice in this movie. First when they're actually at Solomon, right? They bring him some tea and stuff. He's in the command center. Then they actually go to the battleship Birmingham, and he asks for tea again.
Is that to drive home that the Federation are a bunch of tea drinking, out of touch, rich people?
Apparently, because at Zeon we have iced coffee. As cold as our hearts. I forgot the Draw C had a beam saber. On the one hand, why would you give a beam saber to a Draw C? On the other hand, it's so weak anyways. Yeah, you should probably sacrifice the resources to give it a beam saber.
Yeah, I forgot how cool the Draw C's mono eye was.
Yeah, they really went all out to make sure it could look anywhere.
Yeah, up, above, back, around. It was great. I liked that a lot.
Yeah, and at Solomon, I forgot during the narrow review that they thought it would be just brilliant, Brian, to have the crew of each of the ships standing on top of their actual ship, saluting the Birmingham, right before the nuke goes off.
Yeah, I had two thoughts about that. One, what a painful death, given that you're outside the ship.
Yeah.
Maybe it's even quicker, I'm not sure. And two, on the list of good ideas, yeah, that is not on there. That is on the list of bad ideas.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you raised a good point there. Maybe they died faster, painlessly. On the other hand, I can't think that at a certain range, you wished you were inside your ship.
Yeah, I mean, some of the ships survived, right?
Yeah, because if you were inside the ship, you could have lived, you wouldn't be burned at all or not hurt at all. If you're on the surface and that went off at a certain range, you're going to be ruined for life.
Yeah, you're toast. Yeah, so a few things about the nuke, Isaac. One, you'll notice that back when Gato stole Unit 2, Nina had just finished loading the warhead.
Right.
Why did she even load it? I know she has to load it for the plot to work, but like, what is the in-universe explanation for loading the warhead?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think, like, were they going to test it at Torrington? Oh, think about it. They're in Australia, right? It's been depopulated because of the colony drop. What better place to test a nuclear weapon than Earth?
Okay.
And a depopulated continent.
All right. Maybe I can get behind that.
I mean, that's really the only explanation, because otherwise, Jesus Christ, they were going to test the nuke that day. Who was going to go out in it?
Well, that's
Burning?
what I'm saying. If just in general, I would assume with nuclear safety, you would probably not load the warhead until you absolutely know you're going to use it. So that has to be the explanation. Otherwise, Nina just wouldn't cavalierly be like, let's pop the warhead in for a while, see if that goes. Like, or if you're just testing the loading mechanism, don't use the real warhead.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember, Brian, she can pick the pilot. She can do what she wants. It's her project.
That's true. And then also on the warhead, is this the biggest nuke ever?
Are you saying that because of the size of the detonation?
Yes.
Or the size of it when it was loaded?
Well, both, right? So
Yeah.
I was thinking like, okay, so Gato flies to the top of Solomon. He says the iconic line, Solomon, I have returned, which is still probably one of the best parts of the show.
Right.
And he fires, and he just annihilates 2/3 of the Federation fleet. That is an enormous explosion, Isaac. How is it that big? Now, I know that this is literally a big nuclear warhead because it's in a Gundam. The warhead is enormous compared to like a normal nuclear missile. Is that why, or is this just some super nuke?
I think it's half of Super Nuke. And let me explain. You have to remember when Loz'S was giving his little speech, he points out that the whole point of this nuke is to, snuff out resistance from the colonies. So to an extent, it was an anti-Zeon nuke, which is not too far from saying it's an anti-colony nuke.
Yeah.
So it would wipe them out pretty quickly. But then again, Zeon showed that you really don't need super large nukes to take out colonies. Like, once you get one inside, it doesn't have to be super big to wipe out a colony.
Yeah.
But Cohen was going for broke, Brian. He really wanted something that would intimidate Zeon or any other resistance members. So this really doesn't paint Cohen in a good light.
Yeah, a bit of an oops, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
At the naval review, did you catch that it showed the 2 Pegasus classes?
No, they showed the Gray Phantom. I didn't see it.
So there was a quick shot. It was maybe 2-3 seconds tops. They lingered on 2 Pegasus classes right next to each other. They were of the design of the Gray Phantom, and I went back to our Capital Ships episode and I went back through my notes. So those were 2 of any of the following 3 ships, at least. 1, the Gray Phantom. We know the Gray Phantom survived the naval review because we see it later on Earth in Unicorn. It could have been the Troy Horse, which the fate of the Troy Horse is unknown, but I believe it was also at the naval review. And the third one it could have been was the Stallion, and that one definitely was at the naval review and definitely was destroyed at the naval review.
Wow.
But we see 2 of them on screen, which is pretty cool because the 2 we see on screen are visibly not the Albion, but there's also a Pegasus class. So I feel like it's very rare that we see 2 Pegasus classes in the same show.
Yeah, that almost never happens, right? Cool. Oh God, I knew the Gray Phantom was going to be there, but I just didn't see it. Maybe I'll rewatch that part. We'll see. But something I didn't notice the first time was that during the fight with the mobile suits attacking parts of Solomon's space, one of the aces tells Ko his Gundam could make it to Solomon in time to stop Gato. And number 1, how did he know that? Number 2, it's pretty nice of him to tell him that, since Ko apparently didn't know that. And number 3, it was ultimately pointless because he was wrong. You can't make it in time.
I took it more of, you're the only one that has a chance of stopping him.
Ah, okay.
Maybe you won't make it in time per se, but because really, Gato could have picked his shot. He didn't have to fly to the top of Solomon, right? I mean, he could have shot from any angle and really done generally the same amount of damage, probably.
That's true. Yeah, and to the guy's credit, I mean, Ko arrives seconds after the nuke gets fired, so he did catch up to Gato, just with seconds too late.
I mean, it was right after he had those fancy new, verniers installed.
Something I thought about maybe you can. Actually, I want your thoughts on this, Brian. Okay, so the admiral of the fleet doing the review, he gets word that Gato's breaking through, right? At that point, if you were him, could you have shouted, "All right, every ship scatter at maximum speed," and it would have helped their losses?
Um,
They did nothing. He stands there stunned as like he knows Gato's, at Solomon, probably really close to a ship, ready to fire, and they never gave the order. Every ship scatter, run for it. We messed up.
yeah, I mean, it is definitely surprising they didn't do anything. If they had just scattered at full speed, some people probably would have gotten away that maybe otherwise would have died. But you got to think also that there are people just out on the decks of these ships.
Oh, you got me there.
If they scatter, they might hit each other, and those people might fall off, and you might end up causing a whole extra set of deaths. I mean, I guess they're all going to die anyway. I mean, they don't know that, but
Yeah, Admiral Brian, those men and women are dead anyways.
yeah, I mean, I guess that'd be
They're
a tough
dead
call.
the moment Gato got there.
Yeah, it's pretty funny though, right? Because you put the Birmingham in the dead center, right? The safest place, which
Yeah.
ironically ends up being the worst place because he's trapped. He has nowhere to go in any direction to get out of there without running into
Yeah.
anyone. That admiral was clearly not in on it. He was a bit clueless.
Yeah, he was the sacrificial lamb to an extent.
Oh, did we get a name on that admiral?
Admiral T, that's his name. Earl Grey, Admiral Earl Grey.
Well, works for me. I think he had gray hair, right? So it's fine.
Sure. Anyways, after the nuke gets fired, Gato and Ko battle it out with GP1 and GP2. And I like at this point how Gato, when they're after they've sort of disabled each other and they both have to eject and run for it, Gato grabs Ko and like demands to know his name.
Yep. We've seen that in a few series, I think, right?
It's kind of a trope, right? It's a Gundam, something you see repeated in Gundam,
Yeah.
So at this point in the story, I realized we're not going to get any of the drama that happened in the personal lives. And I wrote down, you missed some of the drama in this one, but you get the main broad strokes of the political plot.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Nina jumps in again to narrate at this point because we see that cool scene where Shima's laughing as they blow off the solar reflectors on two colonies so that they destabilize, crash into each other, and one colony starts falling to the moon.
Yeah, I thought that part was just very well done. That's on my list of positives about this film, is the whole colony jacking through line. And that plays into the intro scene of the movie, right? Because you see the two colonies, and we see those same two, what I presume is those same two colonies, crop up a few times during the film before the actual hijacking. So as a viewer, you're still kind of reminded, oh, there's those colonies that I saw in the beginning. And then you get this scene where Shima comes in for the kill and launches that whole operation, which was pretty neat. And then you get your favorite scene where Nina uses the glasses to explain what's happening.
Yeah, I like how she had to like stand by Synopsis' chair, and like Synapse, if you watch the scene, Synapse had to get up and like walk to the other side of his desk to like watch what she was doing. Like, this really isn't that complex with the thing to explain. Like,
Yeah.
But anyways, all right. At this point, they go to the Levion Rose, where we see almost none of the events that happen there. The Albion leaves Levion Rose, and it's got the Dendrobium this time, and they're about to go into combat. And Ko, this is that cool scene where we see Ko inject something into his arm. I think we've seen it in a lot of other series where pilots, maybe in some downtime or if they've been fighting, they inject something into their arm. What do you think that is, Brian?
Some kind of stimulant, amphetamines.
Of course.
Probably the same thing that Guineas was giving his men in 8th MS team to get him to finish the Obsolus.
Something tells me this is far more benign. The Dendrobium starts battling it out with the new mobile armor that Gato received from the Axis fleet, the Neue Zeal, which is maybe the best mobile armor Zeon ever had.
Oh, that's a great scene because Gato has one of the best lines in the show. He looks at it and he's just blown away, Isaac, at the beauty of the Neue Zeal, just as you are. And he says something like, "It's as if the ideals of Zeon have taken form."
I mean, it's probably the best looking mobile armor in any Gundam series.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'll stand by that.
You had to convince yourself. I can tell it took a lot of convincing.
Yeah, I was running through the mobile armors. I was like, what about the ones from Unicorn? I was like, you know what? At a certain point, they get too big. But but yes, best mobile armor ever, the Neue Zeal. What was interesting, though, in this fight with Ko in the Dendrobium was that one of the Doms flies up to Gato, if you remember, and says, I think he says, like, are you doing okay, Commander? Like, your beams can't hit him. And I thought about that, and I was like, oh,
Was that Carius?
No, because
No, it wasn't. Okay.
no, because this was an older guy, and he dies like right after, like Ko hits him with a missile.
Oh, that's right.
But anyways, I thought about that, and I was like, holy shit, that guy's right, because the Neue Zeal, unless it's using its claws as weapons,
Right.
it really only has beams,
Yeah.
so it can't get through the Dendrobium's eye field. But the Dendrobium, which it's got its own eye field too, and can protect itself from Gato's blasts. It has all kinds of physical weapons like rockets and missiles and things like that. So I think this might be a case where the Federation out-engineered Zeon.
Yeah, it probably depends what those mobile armors are going to be used for, right? I mean, in this particular circumstance, the Dendrobium is equipped with the ability to defeat the Neue Zeal more so than the Neue Zeal is equipped to defeat the Dendrobium. But as we see later on, Gato does use the claw eventually to crush the eye field generator on the Dendrobium.
Yeah.
And then kind of has Ko dead to rights again. But that was a good way to spice up the battle for sure.
And it's at this point in the movie where we realize there's been a conspiracy. Members of the Federation military have been working with Shima. Shima quickly turns on Loz'S, takes his capital ship, the Guazine, kills all his crew except him. And it looks like they're given orders to stand down. The Federation's probably going to mop them up or at least arrest them all. And then that'll be a wrap on the mission. Also, they set up a solar system. I'm trying to figure out what was the ideal sequence of events for the Federation conspirators. Were they gonna pump the brakes on the colony and then just have it sit while they cook it with the solar system, and then they can announce the creation of the Titans? I don't know. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I think the ideal scenario would have been that the colony didn't fall. Right, that they could have stopped it. But I mean, beyond the colony falling, I still think they got pretty much what they wanted, right?
The colony falling made no difference because they formed the Titans anyway.
Right. It just gave them more ammo to form the Titans.
It just foreshadowed, though, how incompetent they ultimately would be, though.
Yeah, that's true. This part also had one of the funniest lines. It's right before Shima kills the Loz'S. Admiral Cohen even admires the colony drop, and he admits that it's a fine colony drop. Like, he says it out loud, and I just thought was hilarious. That even he knows that the Federation really effed this one up.
I mean, yeah, it was pretty brilliant, though.
Yeah. Yeah, he says something like, "This is a fine colony drop that incorporates the lessons from the 1 Year War." It's bad when you're complimenting the enemy on their novel strategies.
One of the coolest scenes in this movie is when the Dendrobium whips out like a massive beam saber, and it like goes through a moose-sized bridge and decapitates it. I always thought that was a really cool scene. Even though I don't like the Federation too much, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, for those of you who've never watched 083, who don't know what the Dendrobium is, and maybe you're a Gundam Seed fan because it's a little more modern, the Dendrobium is basically the meteor units before the meteor units.
Imagine a meteor unit and then like triple it in size and give it like backpacks and shoulder pads that had like tons of missile pods and bazooka pods and stuff like that. All right, so we reach a point in the story now where there's a solar system set up, and it's being controlled by a fleet led by Bask Om from Zeta. And it isn't given the order to fire, or at least it isn't even known that it's there until the colony goes past the point of no return. Based on that information, Brian, does that mean we assume that a solar system can fry a colony after the point of no return? Like, this was going to be the conspirators' big, cowboy moment. Like, yeah, look what we can do with our new cross-shaped solar system. We could fry a colony even after the point of no return when it's hours from falling on Earth.
That's a good question. I definitely felt like they were surprised that the solar system didn't work and were disappointed. So, yeah, I think they thought it was going to work. Unless I'm misreading the situation.
Yeah, the sequence of events clearly didn't go the way they wanted. I mean, we know that the control ship does get destroyed,
Right.
but before that, if you remember, Bask Om fires it early.
Pulls a total gear in and just did same mistake, shoots his load too early, and here we go.
Yeah, one of his officers pointed out, we're not completely aligned or whatever. We're not fully targeted on the colony yet. And he says, I don't care. I can see with my own eyes.
Yeah, which is exactly what someone who should not be in charge of a big scientific project like that would say. It's okay, I can see it, just shoot it.
Yeah, just shoot it. But, I mean, it didn't work out. And I don't remember this in the original one, but we see the Shima fleet's Gelgugs and Musais fighting alongside the Bask Om's fleet. So that was kind of interesting and cool to see. Speaking of Shima, this is the part where she gets one of the most memorable deaths in any Gundam series, where she's fighting Ko, and I guess she was doing okay, but she really didn't count on him moving fast enough, and he takes his giant beam saber, hits her right in the cockpit with such force that her arms, actually no, I think all of her limbs on her mobile suit fall off, and she takes a direct hit straight to the cockpit.
Yeah, she ate it big time on that one, which is really unfortunate, Isaac. I would have loved to see more of that mobile suit that she was piloting.
Yeah, we barely got anything of the Gerber Tetra. It was, I don't know, it looked like something made for Char.
Well, some of the listeners may not know this, so I'm going to mention it. The Gebura Tetra is actually Gundam Unit 4 with just some new armor.
They Zeoned it.
Yeah, it was turned into the Isaac version of Gundam Unit 4. You can go look up what the Gundam version of Unit 4 would look like. It looks pretty cool. And the Gebura Tetra looks pretty cool as well. So I wish we had got, even 30 more seconds of that. I've always wondered why they didn't animate more of that.
Yeah, I'm running out of time, I guess, in the story or something, right? They had a few episodes left, and that was it. How much time can we devote to the sub-villain's mobile suit?
I would have liked it if she had a, tiger upholstery on her chair, on her cockpit chair as well.
Oh, that would have been so cool. Or maybe her flight suit, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Like Andrew Waltfield.
That's what I thought of, too.
At this point in the story, Gato heads towards the control center of the colony. He's going to reprogram it, make sure it lands on North America. But guess who's there for him? It's Nina. And at this point in this story, the movie, it felt like this is the first time you get the revelation that they know each other.
Maybe you suspected it before, I'm not really sure. But yeah, this is when they would have confirmed it at sort of the very end.
Yeah, so I felt like that was an interesting twist to throw in if this was your only exposure to 0083. Not a bad choice. Pretty interesting. I also forgot that Ko shoots Gato. I forgot for the rest of his life and the rest of the movie, Gato fought wounded. I completely forgot that he took a bullet to the side.
Yeah, I mean, overall, Gato didn't really get beat in this show, I'll say fair and square, right? Because his Neue Ziel took damage from the solar system, which he did a number on by himself. And then, he gets shot by Ko, kind of not even really looking. So that's a bit unfair.
I put in my notes, what was the point of shooting the solar system twice? And then I realized, if you're Bask Om, shooting the solar system is its own point. Who cares? Who cares if essentially the operation's over and, you can probably mop up what's left of Zeon with a couple of gyms or whatever. At the end of the series, though, as the colony's falling, we cut back to Cohen, and he's on Earth looking up at the sky. The colony's blue hot. It's so hot it turned blue. And he says something really interesting. He says, by this blow, history is changed. I don't really grasp what that means, Brian. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I thought it was referring to the fact that he knew this would give rise to the Titans.
Huh. Interesting.
Because I would say that Cohen is clearly not one that would be a Titan.
No. If Jalantop points a gun at you, I don't think you'll be invited to the Titans' first meeting.
You've been voted off the island, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And speaking of the colony, though, one thing the original series and this movie have in common that's a big mistake, I think, is we never see the colony land on North America, Brian. From the bridge of the Axis capital ship, the Axis flagship, we see that big spark of light, but it's such a wasted opportunity not to show us the colony actually landing at the end of the colony drop.
I agree. I didn't actually realize that, but you're right. I would chalk that up there with the same thing as not having enough time for the Gebura Tetra. Maybe they just ran out of time Maybe they,
Yeah.
they knew, okay, we get 13 episodes and we're at 13. Yeah, I guess I would have liked to seen that too. You could have taken away a few shots
Carrots?
of Ko doing something.
The carrot scene?
Yeah, and it could be, too, that I'm sure, for example, that Mobile Suit Combat in the instance of Gebura Tetra is more complicated and more expensive to animate than just, say, some characters talking. Probably same thing is true for a colony drop. I'm sure that's a bit involved. Because, yeah, fundamentally, it seems odd that you build the whole time to a colony drop and then you don't actually see it land.
Yeah, really interesting that they chose to cut that out. But hey, that's how it goes. Maybe they thought, if you've seen one colony drop, you've seen them all. So the story wraps itself up now that everything's over, essentially. Gato's gone, our heroes lived, and the conspirators essentially announced their victory by Bask Om giving a speech about the rise of the Titans. I was looking at the dates of this and what Bask Om was saying. He said that the colony dropped 3 days ago, and we're being shown images of almost everyone in the Albion crew wearing the new Titans uniforms. So their uniforms were ready to go before the operation was even done.
Well, because it was, it was planned. I mean, they had this conspiracy ready to go. They knew. Yeah, I agree. That's a good observation.
For whatever reason, Brian, they decided to end the movie on this note. Bask Om gives his speech. Ko gets sent to prison. And then they roll credits.
I had a question about that. So I guess I never actually thought about this the first time I watched the show, like 20 years ago or whatever. But is the reason that Ko gets imprisoned because he shot at Bask's ship at the end?
No, that ship was so far away anyways.
Yeah, but I thought, Bask is the kind of guy that would hold a grudge like that.
Right. No, I don't think so. I don't think that was it at all. This is part of the reason that sometimes talking about the cumulative movie is different. The compilation movie, is difficult when you've seen the original series. In the original one, if you remember, Captain Synapse pretty much tells Federation Command, to go shove it at the end, and he's he's gonna keep fighting the Loz'S and Shima. He doesn't recognize Shima as an ally. So I took Ko being sentenced for being, the main Gundam pilot, really throwing a spanner in the works of their whole plan.
Yeah.
To quietly deal with the Loz'S fleet, with the solar system, and give rise to the Titans. Everybody else in the Albion seemed to go along with, hey, sure, we'll be Titans. Go ahead and execute Synapse.
Oh, that's right, because he gets executed, right?
Yeah, and if you remember, in the original series, people that also didn't join the Titans were, I forgot the mechanic's name, but we see her back in Australia, right? Not in a Titans uniform.
Mm.
And then also Keith. Keith decided to stay a test pilot, and he did not join the Titans.
Yeah, we did not get that part in this film.
No, we didn't get our little happy ending.
Which is a little odd. In the OVA series, we do get a shot of Ko basically, it's a year later, I guess, right? Once his sentence is up, and he's walking back to the base, and Keith waves to him. Keith is still, I think, in the Zaku, right? The pink Zaku.
I think it was a khaki Zaku or desert Zaku, but it's got Keith's heart on it, and he gives a peace sign.
Right, yeah. Does Ko see Nina in the original series at the end? Yes. He doesn't see her at this one.
Nope. Ko goes to prison.
And Nina comes off as a real you-know-what in that scene where she sides with Gato and shoots at Ko.
Yeah.
So if I was to just watch the film, Isaac, I would think that Nina and Ko don't end up together. I would think that's it. That was the breakup right there.
I mean, you're right, because that was it in the story. It ends on a tragedy. The film's kind of a downer.
Yeah. I actually like that better than Nina and Ko getting back together.
I'd say it's really appropriate if you know how bad the situation is in the Earth sphere in Zeta with the oppression of the Titans. This is the perfect lead up.
Yeah, that's fair.
It works in that extent. If you have no attachment to Ko and Nina, you don't want to see them, happily ever after. Who cares if they meet each other in Australia?
I just think it makes more sense. I wouldn't expect them to get back together after what happened on the colony with Gato.
Yeah, they've been through a lot.
She shot at him. Isn't that an end of a relationship if I've ever seen one?
Yeah, I mean, and that came out of nowhere too in the story, right? It was such a surprise reveal that she cared for Gato.
Oh, absolutely. It was a surprise in the full-length OVA series. It's even more of a surprise here.
If you see it here, and like this was your first time seeing 0083, you would assume right at the end that Nina reveals herself as a spy almost.
Yeah, or at least very sympathetic to Zeon, or yeah,
Holy she not only does she know him, but she has a gun too.
right, yeah, a life canceller.
A life cancel. The Anaheim Electronics Standard Issue life cancel. So that's 0083, Last Blitz of Zeon, aka the Afterglow of Zeon. It's a pretty unique compilation movie just because of the stuff that it's missing, the way it did things, and the speed that it moves. Overall, I'm glad I saw it. I think it's worth a watch if you enjoyed 0083 or if you saw 0083. If you've seen 0083, you didn't enjoy it too much, do yourself a favor and skip Afterglow of Zeon or Last Blitz of Zeon.
There's one thing I wanted to mention, Isaac. So I'm about to go down a real rabbit hole here, Isaac, so prepare yourself.
Take me.
So there was something I noticed in the beginning of the film, and I remember it from watching the series back in the day. So on the Albion, in the beginning, when they're still on Earth, still at Torrington, the words UNT Spacey are written on the Albion.
Oh my God.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know where this is going. Please continue.
Okay. So, and the UNT Spacey is used on certain other things. You may see it on like decals for some of your older models, particularly for shows that are made in the 90s. And then all of a sudden you don't see UNT Spacey on anything else, really, at a certain point. And a few years ago, I read a good explanation of this, so I looked it up again, because I think this is an interesting topic for fans of Gundam to know about. So what the wiki says is that since the franchise started in 79 through about 1998, all the Federation military stuff used UNT and then like Army or, Spacey for Space Force. And the UNT meant United Nations troops, as if the Earth Federation was some sort of natural evolution of the UN, which is interesting, right, Isaac? I think that's a fair assumption. They stopped using that name, though, in 1998, and obviously 0083 was made in, I think, 91, 92, so this is well within the time that UNT Spacey would have been around. This show is definitely... It has very detailed animation, so you're gonna see details like UNT Spacey written on things. I think it might even crop up in 0080 at some point as well. Whereas in like the original Gundam, Zeta, Double Zeta, the animation isn't quite as detailed to where you would see words scribbled on the Gundams, right? With like model numbers and stuff. I can't. I don't ever remember seeing that in like Zeta, for example. And so now it's weird because starting in 98 and beyond, they replaced UNT Spacey with EFF. So now that's why it's called EF Space Force. So EFSF. So now you see EFSF on everything. And that's probably what you're more used to seeing. And so it's well-known knowledge that they changed from UNT to EFSF or to the EFF. But I think they've never really given a real reason why. So I've read a bunch of different theories over the years. And one, they could have just changed it because they didn't like the name anymore. It's also possible that they changed it because the United Nations forced them to change it indirectly, because the United Nations, I think, has some clauses that say you cannot use their name either intentionally or unintentionally in a way that they don't approve of. So if you have this, very elaborate sci-fi franchise that's about wars and things, I'm sure the UN would not find it flattering that you were perhaps using their name with representatives like Bask Om or Jamatov.
Right.
So that could be a reason why Sunrise decided to change it too. Maybe they got flack from the UN, or they were worried from a legal perspective.
Sued by the UN.
Definitely not someone you want to be sued by. A third reason they could have changed it is that, there are two major mecha franchises, Isaac. There is Mobile Suit Gundam, and there is Macross, or Macross. I actually don't know how to say it.
Macross.
Yeah. So Macross uses very similar naming systems.
Yes.
I believe they have UN Spacey.
Yes.
And then that led me down to a rabbit hole, because in this show, the Gundam mecha designs were done by two people. GP03 and the Dendrobium were done by Hajime Kotoki, which probably everyone listening to this knows. He's still designs Gundams today. He's probably the premier Gundam designer of the last 20 years. And the other person who designed GPO1 and GPO2, as well as the Albion, Isaac, is the creator of Macross, Shoji Kawamori. He is probably one of the most prolific mecha designers in all of anime history. He designed the Outlaw Star, Isaac. One of our favorite shows. He was in the initial pitch meeting along with Shinichiro Watanabe for Cowboy Bebop. How cool is that? So this guy, he's responsible for a lot of mecha stuff. So it's possible that, he slapped on UNT Spacey onto the Albion, onto some of the GPO1. I think it's probably pops up on there, if not in the show, at least on the model somewhere on the GPO2, because he's used to using that in his own franchise. And the people that own Macross are very testy with the IP. There's been a few articles written recently about how the legal situation finally got resolved recently, and they're going to release in the West. They've never done that before, or at least certain of the series have never been over here in 20 something years, which is nuts. I mean, other companies are releasing all their anime all the time on there was a first release on DVDs and then on Blu-rays. This show's been absent over here for so long because they couldn't get the ownership stuff sorted out. So it's possible that Sunrise decided that they didn't want to have any similarities. So I just think that's a really interesting piece of Gundam, not really lore, just history. How on the old stuff you'll see UNT Spacey all the time, particularly in concept art, model art, and then at a certain year you just won't see it ever again. And that's why. So I think it's on the wiki. I've read this other places as well, that they've since supposedly retconned UNT to mean something so that they can have a plausible explanation in universe as to why it's not an error. So apparently it's supposed to mean now under normal tactical. You got to just take the L there, guys. I don't think you needed to do that.
That's terrible. That's the Gundam acronym from Gundam Seed.
Yeah, probably not the best acronym, but that said, very interesting. So it sounds like you've noticed UNT Spacey over the years, Isaac. We've never talked about that, listeners, by the way.
No, I've never really noticed it. But the moment you mentioned UNT Spacey, actually, I thought, oh my God, it's the good guys in Macross Plus. Yep. So now we know that the creator, one of the designers, has been showering in a bit of his previous work. Trying to bridge the gap between Gundam and Macross, and who knows what the lore explanation is. Like you said, maybe once the Titans showed up, they said, that's all over. We're running the show now. We're going to name things EF, SF.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I think it's also retroactive, so it's a little confusing. Anyway.
Well, my notes on Last Blitz of Zeon, Afterglow of Zeon are all done. Anything you wanted to add or questions or thoughts?
I did have a funny realization that Gato's nickname is the Nightmare of Solomon, right? But
yeah.
He wouldn't have had his nickname for very long, though, during the 1 year war, because the war ended a few days later.
That's true. Maybe during the battle, people were like, look, it's... No, that doesn't make sense, right? The battle wasn't even that long. Okay, right. So he had his nickname. You're right. He had his nickname for a few days. It was passed around by Federation troops, right?
Yeah.
Unless his own troops, his own fellow pilots called him the Nightmare of Solomon. You're acting like a real nightmare out there, buddy. Keep it up.
Yeah. One of my favorite lines from the film was when Ko takes out the Gundam after his bad adjustments for space. He says something to the effect of, "I would never wreck it." And then he immediately goes out and wrecks it.
So bad that I think Mancha mentions that the Luna crew has to work 24 hours to get it fixed. Yes. All right, Brian, hit us with the review and the scale of horrors on the basis of 10.
I'm going to be pretty harsh here, Isaac.
Oh, God.
I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10.
Wow.
Let me defend myself here. So
shots fired.
So I think this film, the pacing is atrocious, Isaac. I would absolutely not recommend this film to anyone who has not already seen the 13-episode OVA series. You are not given a whole lot of why things are happening throughout. This is basically just a montage of 0083, compressed into 2 hours, trying to get to the 2-hour goal. Again, like I said earlier, the whole thing feels like Nina's hazy memory of the events. I will say the back half was better paced, and that was probably because either I got used to it, or that makes sense in the context that they released this before the last episode, came out, so I'm sure they placed more of an emphasis on the last fourth of the film. But I think if you were someone who's never watched Gundam before, or you've never seen 0083 before, if you watched this film, you would be very confused, and you would either never want to watch Gundam again, or you would not want to watch 0083 ever again. And that's a shame, because the actual 13-episode OVA series of 0083 is pretty damn good. The compression just kills it. It kills all, like you said, all character moments between Ko, Nina, Gato. The only real great character interaction that's left, or I felt that was really left, was the relationship between Ko and Keith. That one I actually believed the whole time. The rest, I felt it was really weird. Like, Ko and Nina were like hot and cold, just for at random points in time for no real reason. Like, there was a point where Ko and Nina were like on good terms, and then the next scene, Nina just didn't like Ko anymore, and we clearly missed like a whole episode or two's worth of development between the two to explain that. So it's very strange. I think that really just ruins the movie. That said, the visuals are still great. I love the visuals, love the background music. There's a part in the very beginning when the GPO-2 is walking through Torrington, and when Gato's leaving the hangar bay, or the hangar, and it's walking through the smoke, and it just gives this like sense of menace as he's walking. And I think you get that with the hand-drawn animation. I don't think that scene would look as good today in a modern anime. So the visuals still hold up today. The only thing I wish it was widescreen. Did you notice that, Isaac? I mean, it's not widescreen.
Yeah.
But so it goes. It overall has a gritty, dirty feel and like a darker color palette, which is great. And all the designs, like I said, they were done by Hajime Kotoki and Shoji Kawamori. So you got great designers, and your Noizio was designed by someone named Mika Akitaka. So he or she did a great job as well. So the visuals really carry this thing. So if you just want to turn your brain off, maybe watch the action, you would really enjoy it. But I think if looking at it from a story perspective, I don't think it makes a lot of sense, and that's why I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. And I would really suggest that if you've never seen 0083, that you go watch the OVA episodes first, and then if you like it and you're just curious, you could watch this. But I still think if you're going to spend 2 hours watching this, I'd rather just spend 2 hours starting a 13-episode OVA series over again and put it towards that. I guess I don't see a purpose in this film, Isaac. Outside of getting us some ticket sales, and at that time, I don't see who this movie is for anymore.
Brian, I built up a castle of arguments, and you destroyed it with a single blow. Because everything you said is completely right. let me pull my pants and pull myself off the ground and try to put up a meager defense. All right. This movie is for someone that saw 0083 and thought to themselves, you know what? I'd like kind of a rewatch of like the fights and stuff, the battles, but I really don't want to see a lot of Nina and Ko and pointless life of the crew members and stuff like that. Yeah. That's exactly what this movie will give you. But if you're a Gundam fan and like you have friends that maybe watch anime but they've never seen Gundam, don't you dare introduce Gundam to them by showing them this movie, because it is not very good. Show them Iron-Blooded Orphans, show them Unicorn, something. Not this though. This is, as far as pace wise, this is like a sprint of a story. We just run from one event to the other. It's the rise of Skywalker of Gundam. All right. So that said, I enjoyed it as someone that saw 0083. Because I got to see all my favorite battles and cool mobile suits and stuff, mobile armors, except the Valvaro. What a crime. I got to see them all really quickly in the space of 2 hours. But, yeah, it's not perfect. And for that reason, on a scale of 5, I'd give it 3 Haros. It's a bit middle of the road. If you're 0083 fans, check it out. If not, just go see 0083. You haven't seen it before, you're going to be better served, just like Brian said. But overall, I'm glad we gave it a try, Brian, and actually got to see what Last Blitz of Zeon, what Afterglow of Zeon was actually about, because we'd heard about it for years. We'd never seen it. We had no idea. To an extent, we went in blind, even though we'd seen 0083. But I'm glad we got to experience it. And now we'll put it on the shelf next to F91, where we'll never see it again.
You're right. I am glad that we saw it, just to kind of check it off the box. What I also like is that Sunrise put it up for free on YouTube.
Yeah, because they're not going to get any sales.
Well, I think we need more of that for the old stuff.
Right.
Like, it's really hard for someone to watch Double Zeta without buying the DVDs, and
Yeah.
that's a lot to ask for people. And so I feel like this is a good trend. Like, I'm glad that they put it on YouTube, and I'm hoping that they put other things on YouTube like this. That maybe otherwise they wouldn't sell, or that otherwise people wouldn't watch.
Things that'll never turn a profit, and yet it's content sitting around.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got this on the shelf. It's all subbed. Just put it out there, and they did. So I appreciate the effort, even if I don't think the movie's that great.
That said, though, beautiful animation, great music, cool battles, mobile suits. To an extent, that's really the heart of why we watch anime. You know, I mean, story overall could have done a little bit more polishing, but
Yeah, who needs that story? Just give me the mecha fights.
yeah. You know what? For having a bunch of episodes lying around, it's not terrible. It's watchable.
Oh, it's watchable.
It's watchable, but there's other things to watch.
Well, I think the problem, Isaac, is that there's a very complex plot afoot here. And if it was like a more straightforward, like, bad guy or like good guy must go beat up bad guy, then maybe you could get away with this. But there's a lot happening in this, and to condense it down to 2 hours, doesn't help that understanding of that plot.
You're right. And I don't have anything to defend that. You're just right. Yeah, we missed a lot, but if you're looking there for, just a quick series of battles and mobile suit combat with great animation and music, this is the movie for you. Other than that, though, don't expect a good, well done story, because it ends on a downer too.
Go get the DVDs. Watch the OVA series is my suggestion.
Man, overall, I think both of our ratings, even though they're pretty different to an extent, they're both right in their own ways.
Yeah, so this is my suggestion, Isaac. I don't want listeners to feel that 083 is a bad show. So I think we're gonna let it breathe for a while, and we'll come back and we'll watch the series.
Yeah, that series is a great series, listeners. If you're on the fence about 083, go see the series. Don't see this. Watch the full series. You're gonna have a great time.
Yeah, let this be a reminder that you should watch the series.
Yeah.
As it shows up on YouTube, you can see, oh, Gundam 083, I've never watched that. Just don't watch this. Go watch the 13 episodes.
Exactly. You'll have a way better time. And
I should point out, just to clarify, I don't think that the person who edited this into 2 hours did a bad job. I think they actually did a good job. It's just that it's an unachievable task, what they were trying to do.
Yeah, I'd say you're right. At the end of the day, though, you got to work with what you got. And the editor clearly, like you said, maxed it out as much as he could. But
1 hour, 59 minutes, baby.
You can't squeeze a semi-truck into your garage. I don't care how much you try, how much time they give you.
I mean, you could put it in your garage. It's just that your garage is going to be a lot bigger after you put it in there.
Yeah, gonna be damaged.
Yeah, you're gonna, your house is gonna be all messed up. So it goes.
But you know what? It is what it is. Glad we got to see it, Brian. It was cool.
I did. It was a fun time. All right, listeners, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Isaac, take us away.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast episode. Before you go to bed tonight, stand next to your bed. Get on your knees, put your hands together, look up at the ceiling, and hail Zeon.
Good night, everybody.